Henyard says she is endorsing a new board, but not announcing who they are just yet, instead promising to name them later this month. Henyard is under investigation by the FBI.
In a shocking turn of events, Thornton Township and Dalton have been rocked by the arrest of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who also serves as township supervisor and famously referred to herself as the super mayor. Federal agents took Henyard into custody earlier today, marking a dramatic moment after years of controversy surrounding her leadership. Henyard's tenure has been mired in accusations of corruption, reckless decision-making, and public stunts that have sharply divided the community and drawn widespread attention. For months, rumors of an FBI investigation into Henyard circulated, fueled by allegations of misconduct, abuse of power, and questionable leadership decisions. While many anticipated legal trouble, few expected such a sudden and dramatic escalation. Henyard's arrest appears to be the culmination of years of mounting scrutiny, growing evidence, and increasing public concern over her leadership. The news has left residents of Dalton and Thornton Township in disbelief, further polarizing a community already divided by Henyard's bold and often controversial leadership style. Critics who have long accused her of self-serving and reckless behavior now feel vindicated, seeing the arrest as confirmation of their claims. Meanwhile, Henyard's loyal supporters are scrambling to make sense of the situation, defending her as an ambitious leader unfairly targeted by political opponents. Throughout her time in office, Henyard faced a series of controversies, including accusations of excessive spending on personal luxuries and the appointment of an unqualified police chief. Despite persistent criticism, she maintained a defiant public stance, dismissing her detractors as politically motivated and branding herself as a trailblazer facing unjust opposition. However, her arrest has shifted the narrative from political drama to legal reckoning, casting a shadow over her leadership. The community is now grappling with a range of emotions: shock, anger, sadness, and uncertainty over the implications of this dramatic development. To Henyard's critics, her arrest represents long-awaited justice, but to her supporters, it feels like a politically charged attack on a leader who dared to challenge the status quo. With Henyard's arrest, both Dalton and Thornton Township are plunged into a leadership crisis, leaving residents wondering what the future holds for their communities. As Henyard's legal fate remains uncertain, the legacy of the super mayor faces a significant redefinition, potentially overshadowed by the legal consequences that may follow.
At 6, embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard is mounting a re-election bid. Henyard made the announcement.
To understand the dramatic downfall of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, we must trace the series of events that culminated in her arrest. From the moment she took office as mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township, her tenure was defined by controversy. Known for her bold and unapologetic leadership style, Henyard quickly became notorious as allegations of corruption, misuse of taxpayer funds, and abuse of power became recurring issues. Reports of extravagant spending ranging from luxury travel and lavish events to questionable personal expenses sparked outrage among residents, who accused her of prioritizing her own interests over public service. Her decisions to appoint unqualified individuals to key positions further eroded public trust and intensified demands for accountability. Despite the mounting backlash, Henyard remained defiant, dismissing her critics as politically motivated and portraying herself as a trailblazer unfairly targeted by opposition. Yet, the allegations continued to pile up, prompting a long-running FBI investigation. The inquiry examined a broad spectrum of accusations, including financial misconduct, misuse of township resources, and potential backroom deals, all of which raised serious concerns about Henyard's ethics. Public meetings became battlegrounds, with fiery confrontations between Henyard and township trustees, reflecting the deep divisions within the community. While her supporters applauded her bold leadership, critics viewed her actions as reckless and self-serving, fueling a political storm that engulfed the township. Ultimately, the audacity that once defined Henyard's leadership also paved the way for her downfall. Her arrest by federal agents marked the shocking conclusion to a saga that had gripped Dalton and Thornton Township for years. Henyard's fall serves as a cautionary tale of how unchecked ambition, without accountability and transparency, can spiral into chaos and collapse. For the community, this moment represents a reckoning. Residents are left to reflect on the turbulent legacy of a leader whose rise and fall have left an indelible mark on the township's history.
Till 2025, yet Tiffany Henyard has officially decided she wants to stay as mayor despite the cloud of controversy.
The arrest of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, also the Thornton Township supervisor and self-proclaimed super mayor, unfolded early this morning at her Dalton home, marking a pivotal moment in a saga that has gripped the south suburbs. federal agents arrived dramatically, with witnesses noting the presence of her boyfriend, Kamal Woods, who has faced his own share of controversies. Woods reportedly looked on as Henyard was taken into custody, capping years of swirling allegations and a growing federal investigation into her administration. Though the exact charges are still undisclosed, sources suggest they include embezzlement, misuse of public funds, and obstruction of justice, all tied to her management of Dalton and Thornton Township finances. To fully grasp the significance of Henyard's arrest, it's necessary to examine the long trail of controversies that have followed her since taking office in 2012. From the start, her leadership was defined by a larger-than-life persona. Henyard didn't just settle for the titles of mayor or township supervisor, she branded herself as the super mayor, with her image plastered on banners, billboards, and social media. Her face became a fixture throughout Dalton and Thornton Township, appearing on promotional materials, event flyers, and even village welcome signs. Supporters saw her as a dynamic and approachable leader, while critics accused her of self-promotion and using public resources to elevate her own image rather than serve the community. Henyard, however, dismissed these criticisms with characteristic confidence, often declaring herself the people's mayor and people's supervisor. Her charisma and public presence drew both admiration and skepticism, but soon her tenure became defined by more than just bold branding. Allegations of financial misconduct emerged early in her term, including lavish spending on personal luxuries and questionable allocations of public funds. Outrage grew among residents as they accused Henyard of putting her personal interests ahead of public service. Her leadership style, bold and ambitious, created rifts with trustees and community members, with heated board meetings becoming the hallmark of her administration. For months, a federal investigation into Henyard had been quietly unfolding, scrutinizing her financial decisions and accusations of obstructing oversight. Her leadership, once praised for its audacity, became increasingly tarnished by financial controversies and strained relationships with local officials. One particularly shocking revelation was a $43,000 Amazon shopping spree allegedly charged to village accounts, which included high-end furniture and unexplained expenses. This episode, among others, left critics stunned and fueled allegations that Henyard's extravagant lifestyle was being funded by taxpayer dollars. This wasn't an isolated incident. Additional accusations of luxury travel and personal indulgences at public expense continued to surface, deepening the sense of betrayal among residents. One of Henyard's most controversial projects was the $2 million skating rink, which critics argued was built without proper approval or transparency. The rink, often open only for events hosted by Henyard herself, reinforced claims that she was more focused on boosting her personal image than serving the community's needs. Despite these accusations, Henyard's supporters defended her initiatives, arguing that her vision was to provide amenities and improve the community. They insisted that her bold style was misunderstood by opponents who resisted change. However, as more details of her spending came to light, public dissatisfaction grew, and trust eroded further. Board meetings became increasingly tense as trustees and residents demanded accountability. The allegations of unchecked spending, paired with perceptions of financial mismanagement, became central to the criticism of Henyard's administration. Her defiant responses to her critics only intensified the scrutiny. The growing tension with local officials, combined with allegations of financial misconduct, created an environment ripe for investigation. This ultimately set the stage for the federal probe that led to her arrest, a dramatic fall for a leader once praised for her audacity and ambition. Henyard's arrest has sent shockwaves through Dalton, Thornton Township, and the broader region, leaving residents grappling with the charges and her legacy. For some, the arrest represents vindication, proof that the long-standing allegations were justified. For others, it marks the tragic downfall of a leader who once promised to break barriers and connect with her constituents but became a symbol of unchecked ambition and a lack of accountability. As the federal investigation continues to unfold, the community is left to reflect on Henyard's rise and fall. Her tenure will likely be remembered not just for her bold leadership but also for the financial mismanagement and personal indulgences that marred her time in office. While the legal proceedings will determine her fate, the damage to her reputation is already done. Henyard's downfall serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, the need for transparency in leadership, and the long-lasting impact of financial mismanagement on public trust.
And to Supervisor Tiffany Henyard from filing a vacancy on the board. So what is going on and why the...
Tiffany Henyard's leadership style, as contentious as her spending habits, became a hallmark of her administration, exacerbating divisions and raising widespread concern. From the beginning, her tenure was characterized by frequent clashes with the Dalton Village Board of Trustees, setting the stage for a turbulent era in local governance. Meetings often turned into heated confrontations, with trustees accusing Henyard of overstepping her authority, while she accused them of sabotaging her efforts. In one particularly chaotic meeting, Henyard stormed out after being heckled by both residents and trustees, shouting, "You all should be ashamed of yourselves," before leaving the room. These incidents portrayed her as a leader who believed she was under constant attack, not just from her critics but from the entire political establishment. Her combative approach wasn't confined to boardrooms, it became a central part of her public image. Henyard frequently turned to social media, especially Facebook Live, to air grievances and target opponents with fiery broadcasts. In these videos, she called out critics by name, accusing them of jealousy, holding personal grudges, and actively trying to undermine her leadership. In one particularly incendiary broadcast, she labeled her detractors as enemies of progress and ominously vowed to expose every single one of them. These public tirades drew mixed reactions. Supporters admired her audacity, praising her for standing up to her opponents directly. Critics, however, questioned the professionalism of her behavior, expressing concerns about her use of public platforms for personal attacks. Some residents voiced fears of potential retaliation, alleging that Henyard used her influence to intimidate dissenters. Accusations surfaced that she weaponized lawsuits, public shaming, and even township resources to silence those who challenged her authority. While these claims were not always proven, they contributed to an atmosphere of tension and mistrust, where opposition to Henyard was often met with fierce and personal retaliation. Henyard's defenders viewed her actions as those of a passionate leader fighting for progress against relentless opposition, while her critics saw her as divisive, unprofessional, and detrimental to the community. The escalating conflicts, both in public meetings and on social media, became emblematic of an administration more defined by controversy than accomplishments, leaving Dalton and Thornton Township deeply polarized and struggling to cope with the turbulence created by Henyard's confrontational style of governance.
The meeting wrapped up early because two trustees, as you mentioned, did not show up: Chris Gonzalez and Carmen Carlock. Without them, not enough board members were present to make a
claims that Mayor Tiffany Henyard had begun alienating key allies within her administration only intensified the controversies surrounding her leadership. Over time, several former supporters, including trustees who had once backed her initiatives, turned against her, accusing Henyard of consolidating power at the expense of transparency and collaboration. Carmen Carlisle, one of her former assistants, became a prominent critic, alleging that Henyard routinely ignored established protocols to push her personal agenda. Carlisle described Henyard's leadership as driven by a "my way or the highway" mentality, which fostered a climate of mistrust and disarray. These internal divisions, according to Carlisle, deepened the rift between Henyard and the board, creating a growing sense of disillusionment among her once loyal supporters. Tensions escalated as Henyard and her trustees were accused of bypassing board approval for key decisions, including the appointment of high-level executives. A particularly contentious decision involved Ronald Burge, who was appointed head of Dalton's police department despite concerns about his qualifications and inactive state certification. Trustees argued that Henyard's unilateral appointment of Burge was illegal, though a judge later ruled that he could serve in an interim capacity. This appointment fueled further conflict between Henyard's administration and the township, with some residents and business owners alleging that Henyard used her office to target those who opposed her. One business owner claimed his company was shut down after refusing to donate to Henyard's campaign, while another accused her of using the Dalton Police Department as a personal enforcement squad to intimidate opponents. Carmen Carlisle, who had once been one of Henyard's closest allies, ultimately turned against her and identified herself as a whistleblower. She accused Henyard of running the township like a personal fiefdom, a betrayal that severely damaged Henyard's public image. Trustees later made startling allegations, accusing Henyard of falsifying checks and concealing financial data to avoid board oversight. A township that was once believed to have a healthy surplus was revealed to be millions of dollars in debt. A preliminary financial report, conducted by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who had been hired to investigate the township's finances, exposed serious financial mismanagement and a lack of oversight. Henyard dismissed the report as a politically motivated hit piece, accusing her critics of jealousy and hatred. In a memorable Facebook Live video, Henyard addressed her critics directly, accusing them of prejudice and vowing to take legal action. "When I sue everyone, I'm coming for defaming my name, defaming my character, and this conspiracy to destroy Tiffany Henyard. I will come for everyone." Despite the mounting controversies, Henyard remained defiant, often holding public events like turkey giveaways and holiday parties where she defended her record and rallied her supporters. Meanwhile, federal investigators had begun quietly probing her administration, interviewing witnesses and reviewing financial records from both Dalton and Thornton Township. As the FBI expanded its investigation, Henyard's political committee and charity came under scrutiny for allegations of money laundering and misuse of public funds. The arrest of one of Henyard's top allies earlier in the year marked a turning point, with many speculating that he had agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for leniency. As news of Henyard's arrest spread, the community was divided. Some supporters expressed shock and disbelief, claiming that the FBI was targeting Henyard because she was a young black woman in power. Others felt the arrest was long overdue, with one resident remarking that Henyard had been running this town like her own personal kingdom for years. Henyard's arrest has left Dalton and Thornton Township facing an uncertain political future. While some residents and trustees are calling for new leadership, others worry about the long-term damage to the community's reputation. "We need to rebuild trust and restore integrity to our local government," one trustee stated, echoing a common sentiment that the scandal will take time to overcome. As the community grapples with the fallout of Henyard's fall from grace, it is clear that her audacity and ambition, once celebrated, have now become symbols of her undoing.